Tommy Boyd at breakfast. LBC 11:52 a.m. Call 0171 412 1152.
What we'll do before I remind you of the topics of conversation, the news and issues that we've covered on the programme this morning, we'll go straight to Steve, who's called from Potter's Bar. Steve, good morning to you.
Oh, good morning, Tommy. Yes, this lot of international riffraff who are over here now, I mean, they are becoming a real burden, and we don't want them, and I wish we could get rid of them.
In your case, we being?
The people of Britain.
Ooh, steady on.
I suppose, yeah. Well, some of us, but apart from the soppy liberals, you know.
Difficult, isn't it, to judge the national mood on this one, because you do find that there are one or two extremists in both camps.
Oh, yeah.
Issue, and I suppose you'd have to admit that you're one of them.
You might say that.
Well, I mean, are you or aren't you?
No, I'm a patriot. I believe in this country. I believe in what was good about this country.
Yes.
Now, if I want to, I just see the people that import. I mean, generations fought to keep outsiders out, to stop you, so anybody who really allows this line, I regard them as traitors.
Well, is that true? What you just said? I've never met anybody who said that he or she or his father or mother went to war in order to keep foreigners out.
Well, when there was an invasion, now we've got an invasion by stealth.
Going back to your previous point, since you didn't address it when I just challenged you on it, I don't remember anybody ever saying that they went to war to keep foreigners out.
Well, it was at the time.
Which time was this?
We fought a war to keep the Germans out.
Well, again, that isn't true, especially if you've been keeping up with the very latest on the Second World War. I don't know if you were watching television over the weekend, a very interesting documentary.
I think the idea was largely to keep the Germans out.
Well, it turns out it wasn't.
Well, what was it then?
What was it then? Well, it's quite interesting. If you're watching the documentary, you'll have seen a number of prominent historians saying quite categorically that Britain should not have got involved in the dispute, which was fundamentally at the time to determine Slavic or Teutonic superiority in Middle Europe. It has nothing to do with us. We shouldn't have got involved, but we wanted to get involved.
But because we fought the war because of eminent German invasion.
No. And actually, you are the first person who suggested that we went to war in 1939 because we thought Germany was likely to invade Britain.
No, it was about Poland. I know about that. It was about the...
Well, it wasn't actually about Poland.
Well, it was.
To be honest.
But it was.
To be accurate, it wasn't. It was about Danzig.
No, it was about the invasion of Poland.
No, it wasn't. Poland wasn't invaded. Danzig was. No, Hitler's claim was to Danzig, not to Poland.
To what?
Danzig.
Danzig?
Yes.
Well, all right. It's going away from what we were originally...
No, it's going into areas where you're shaky. But unfortunately, it's the facts of the matter, Steve. The fact of the matter is Danzig. Hitler claimed that Germany had rights over Danzig since, for example, 95% of the population of Danzig were German.
Well, this is, whatever you say may be right or wrong, but...
Well, what are we doing getting involved in that, then? What were we doing getting involved? This is what historians are now able to ask. Did we need to go to war in 1939?
Look, you're being a bit of a silly sod as usual, aren't you?
Steady.
Yeah.
Historians are now asking whether we needed to go to war in 1939.
Well, I know, but I didn't ring in on to discuss World War II.
But you used our entry into World War II as a credential for your shaky argument.
No. Well, you're going... what you're saying is tendentious anyway.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm reporting what historians are saying.
I shouldn't believe everything you watch on TV anyway. Most of it's rubbish.
Well, I believe that's what the question that historians are asking, and it's a valid question, and we should discuss it this morning.
Some historians. I mean, you could get anybody to argue anything. You could get a group of people who are staunch defenders of Saddam Hussein in Hyde Park.
That's what people say when they don't want to focus on the issue.
Well, I want to focus on the issue of refugees.
Well, can you leave alone the idea then that people in this country have gone to war in order to keep foreigners out?
We have gone to war to keep foreigners out.
Well, we've established that didn't happen in the Second World War, so which war are you thinking of?
No, you sidetracked into a load of your usual twaddle.
Which war are you thinking of?
World War II, but you see...
We've established that that's not the case.
This is why you bug people, because you just keep distracting and going off down your silly track.
Pinning people down.
No, you're not pinning anybody down. You're pinning yourself down.
Demonstrating the flaws in people's arguments, such as yours.
You're pedantic. That's
Precise.
the trouble with you.
Accurate. Well-informed.
No. You watch something on TV, so you have to sort of feed it into your argument, but it's irrelevant. So anyway, what about refugees? We were discussing it, weren't we?
Yes, well, as long as we are agreed that we cannot think of an instance in which this country has gone to war in order to keep foreigners out.
Well, anyway.
Are we agreed on that now? We might as well be, because we've demonstrated that it's the case.
No. Anyway, refugees, who needs them, who wants them, deport them, throw them off Beachy Head, if need be. Well, I suppose that's a bit offensive, isn't it?
What, throwing people off Beachy Head?
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, it would not be a good idea. Oh. I can't think of anybody I would want to be thrown off Beachy Head. Oh. Apart, of course, from the people who want to be thrown off Beachy Head, the people who go there for that very purpose.
Well, okay.
Yes.
Well, you can't do anything about them because they're coming anyway. The MPs are just gutless. The country's spineless. The police won't do anything. They can't anyway. Because they've got to be anti-racist these days. All the rest. So the country's just kiboshed, isn't it? So it's all a bit sad, isn't it?
Let me ask you a question just to see whether you're going to try and answer it or not. I don't suppose you will. It's a good question, and it's a question which we were asking the last time this topic was seized upon on this section of the breakfast programme. What would you do? Where would you go if you suddenly discovered that this country was run by a group of people who would not tolerate you or your views and came looking for you? Where would you flee? Saudi Arabia. You'd flee to Saudi Arabia?
Because I'd get £1,000 a week camel fund, wouldn't I? I'd get very generously treated over there.
How would you get there?
It's a one-way ticket.
But the airports are closed to you. They're on the lookout for you and your kind.
Well, not really, because airports aren't closed, because that's why...
No, they will be under this government. This is how it is to be somebody who needs to flee, a refugee.
No, it's not, because they all come here. You get...
No, we're talking about you. The airports are closed and your bank balance has been frozen.
Well,
this is what happens.
Work like that.
It does.
No, it never works. But how come Afghanis are coming here? How many countries?
Let's put it like this. They're obviously very resourceful people.
No, very devious people.
Well, one man's resource is another man's deviousness. Are you neither, presumably?
Afghanis in Dover must have gone for about 20 countries to come here. They know it's the land of milk and honey, don't they?
0171412 1152, Steve in Potter's Bar. You're listening to LBC Breakfast. Get involved. Call LBC now. 0171 412 1152. Tommy Boyd at breakfast. LBC 1152 AM. Call 0171 412 1152.
John's call from Ongar. John, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Tommy. Yes, I'd like to say that why we went to war with Germany, and Neville Chamberlain had to say that we are now at war with Germany, is because we had a pact with Poland. I know the build-up of Danzig and what happened when he started walking into countries and one thing and another. We knew what was happening. We wasn't silly in this country. We also saw at that time men in concentration camps with pyjama kind of suits on with stripes down them. We had a terrible First World War and there was a lot of men killed, young people. Now, my mother used to say to me, now son, she used to say to me, only go round Battersea Park, don't go up the Hyde Park. And me and my friends, we were only young, we was 8 and 9, but we could read the papers and 10. And we could see really what was happening. I used to get on a slow horse and cart, because the lorries were just taking over from the horse and carts then. And we used to go up to Hyde Park, and as we went up there, I used to get on the back of this cart, and a bloke used to shout out, look behind, Governor, and I used to throw this whip over and crouch around here, you know what I mean? So that made you behave yourself. Of course, there was a lot of boys falling off the backs of carts at that time.
Very colourful recollection, John. I think what I would do is, Bracey, the thrust of this new theory about the Second World War, which is finally being aired by a number of historians, and it works as follows. A lot of contemporary thinking, and there was such thinking at the time, 1939, believes that had we stood aside and allowed the Slavs and the Teutons of Central Europe to settle their differences, this is fundamentally Germany and Russia, who had begun to form a pact, but who nevertheless suspected each other more than any other nation on earth, if we had simply held their coats whilst they got on with settling their differences, this country would have been much stronger by 1945 than it was, reduced to its knees, of course, and might even have been spared any conflict at all. But certainly the West and the East would not have found themselves in a terrifying Cold War standoff that lasted some 40 years. That's the theory, and it's quite penetrative, isn't it? Jennifer in Carshalton's our next caller. Jennifer, you're on LBC. Hello.
Oh, Tommy, I'm cross with you. With you, Frost, the first caller, you completely went up the mountain. He told you about the situation, what is now with those so-called refugees. I have been involved in interpreting, and I tell you one thing, this, the first amount of so-called gypsies, Romanian gypsies, they were not. The fronts have unloaded them here in England, because none of them spoke other language but mixed gypsy French. And every other one now who comes so-called refugees, they come only to be better. And what do? They come as one family. Receive the house, daughters married, sons and all the rest of it. Get 3 houses while English people pushed away. They're sitting there and waiting. They've got 3 houses. In the end, they move into one house. One house had 18 people in, and rent their houses that already was given as refugee, £75 a room to those illegal refugees. As within, they make sort of what you would call it illegal immigration. They pay towards the people to bring in. They have £500 on the other side. They push them in the lorries and bring them in and discard them somewhere. Once I went in interpreting cruise, sort of saying, one of them knew every corner from here, from Carshalton to Brighton. Which road you turn, which factory was there. It's like a spy ring. And you said to that man, you brought the war in and brought everything else. Unfortunately, the other man just said, push them off the beachy head. Sometimes one feels one want to jump off the beachy head. And I'm not you, beloved listener anymore, I think. No, I'm not. I won't forgive you for that.
Well, thank you for that very, very, very British set of sentiments there, Jennifer.
British subject.
British...
I'm
Sorry?
British born, I'm British subject.
Oh, you're not born in Britain?
No.
I could never have spotted it from your attitudes, which is so British.
I was
so British.
I
can
was in
see
a
you
Labour
now.
camp in Germany.
You look like Britannia in my own mind. I can see you sat on a throne, draped in the Union Jack, a lion at your feet.
I'm barking more than a dog itself.
No, you're not kidding.
Thank you.
0171412 1152, 20 past 9.
Phone LBC now. Have your say. 0171 412 1152. 11:52 a.m.
William's on the line now from Elstree. William, you're on LBC. Good morning.
Hi, yeah. I was ringing up to say about World War II. I think definitely Britain should have joined in. Because the way I see it is, you got to show other people compassion. You got not always thinking about Britain the whole time. Because, you know, Hitler, in my opinion, had to be stopped. And if we hadn't, he would have taken over Eastern Europe, yeah. And that would have left us in a better situation. But there's no way we can guarantee he wouldn't have later invaded Britain because, you know, he was a bit of a psycho. And also, it shouldn't be sort of our duty to stop a man like Hitler, like killing all those people. You know, because also, I mean, the way you've spoken about the refugees shows you feel the compassion for the other people, but then when speaking about Britain, you think, well, no, why should we have joined in? I don't know if you agree with the new historian's view, that's all. I really don't agree with that.
Well, there's an important point which is often made, and it is often made by the conscientious objectors, of which there were some 40,000 men and women during at the start of the Second World War who said that they would refuse to fight and refuse to kill other people. They say that their view would have been different often, although they still may have refused to fight, but their views would have been different if they had known about the concentration camps in 1939. You've got to remember that the evidence about those concentration camps and the so-called final solution didn't really begin to emerge at all until towards the end of the war, and the full scale of the atrocity wasn't apparent until the months after the war, when the Allies liberated the concentration camps and pieced together what must have happened there.
Yeah, but Hitler's views about Mein Kampf about Lebensraum, what he should do with all Eastern Europeans, he actually described them as subhuman in his book in 1923. So, it wasn't exactly unknown that he was.
Well, Mein Kampf is not much of a policy document. I've tried to read it but couldn't. It's impenetrable. It's rambling. It's unclear. You're right that it focuses on living space and Germany's need to reclaim some of the territories that were taken away from her at Versailles after the First World War. But from a neutral point of view, those claims are utterly legitimate. Their concerns for Lebensraum, as much as anything else, had to do with their quite well-justified fears for Stalinist imperialism.
Yeah, I know the fears of Russia. I mean, at the time, everyone did, and after the war, it was even furthered. But, he took all the German spaces. Then when he started taking Poland, he took Danzig, which was also he had a claim to. But he in no way looked like he was going to stop at Poland. He looked like he wanted the whole of Eastern Europe.
He looked like it.
And Britain, he looked like it, and we intervened at that point.
He looked like it now.
Yeah. But, and England also, at the time, Neville Chamberlain was exactly pretty reluctant to get into war.
But you know that history is written by the victor. Your judgment on how Hitler was proceeding is based on what you have learned and been taught by the history books of the victor. And a certain amount of just general awareness, I think, has to accompany any reading of any human conflict that is written by the victor, doesn't it? That's reasonable, isn't it?
It's totally reasonable.
And yet, at the same time, the best we've got to go on is that it appeared to us that Hitler's motives were world domination.
I can see where you come from and everything, but I just, a man like Hitler, he's much worse than a lot of people. Stalin was possibly a bit more, insane in that respect, as, he killed his own people and things, but Hitler was, his views against Jewish people and other people, even, the gypsies of Eastern Europe as well, he just wanted to exterminate them. And, if evidence came out today that had happened, and we hadn't done anything about it, how would we feel? And, it's just ridiculous. We just let that happen.
All right, William, I'm grateful for your call. 0171412 1152 is the number. Open line until Steve Allen takes the air at 10 o'clock. This is LBC Breakfast.
Call Tommy Boyd now. 0171 412 1152.
Other issues that we touched on in the breakfast show this morning include a Consumer Association reaction to the news that of the 8 major British banks who were surveyed, all 8 were found to be offering an entirely less than perfect service. Well, surely no great surprise there. That's a dog bites man, if ever there was one. The particular area that they're focusing on, though, is bank loans. And we spoke to Neil Walkling from the Consumer Association, who said that a £5,000 loan from your bank over a period of 3 years could cost you up to £1,000 more if you do it with your bank than if you shop around and get your money perhaps from an independent. 0171412 1152. We spoke to LBC's TV correspondent Marcus Berkman about a new TV station which launches today, which is specifically for the under 6s. And I'd be very surprised if 1 or 2 people don't find themselves wondering whether children haven't got quite enough electronic entertainment already without them having it's not a 24-hour station, it's 7 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon station aimed just at them. Remember, this is the 6s and unders. They've got their own TV station. To Patricia, who's calling from Boreham Wood. Patricia, welcome to LBC.
Hello, Tommy darling. We've spoken before.
My dear.
Can I please tell you that the world leaders, I'm not necessarily saying the world, but the world leaders knew about concentration camps from about, 1933, 1934, when, first of all, the mentally disabled were rounded up, homosexuals were rounded up, political prisoners rounded up, Jewish doctors, solicitors were refused jobs, Jewish children were not allowed to keep pets. People were coming out and...
This is shaky, if you don't mind me saying so.
Yes.
This is a bit shaky.
Well, as my voice is shaky.
No, the information, really. You've got a lovely voice.
Oh, thank you.
But your information's a tad shaky. Who was in power in Germany in 1933?
Should I tell you something? I don't know.
No. Okay.
I've got to be honest. I'm not going to go all the way around the world and pretend I do.
No, there we are. Fair enough. There were prison camps in Germany in the middle 30s. That's true. There were prison camps in this country too.
Yeah, and there were prison camps and refugees came over.
Yes.
In here.
Yes, but there weren't extermination camps in Germany.
Only for the mentally disabled.
There weren't any extermination camps in Germany until the middle years of the war.
No, I'm
1942 was when the programme began.
Well, I had a very, very dear friend who was one of the last ones to get out of Belgium, and towns were going through from about 1935-36, and nobody believed them because they sounded so ludicrous and far-fetched.
Mm. Well, it's not. Yes, but it's not enshrined in any of the history books.
No.
Maybe it's true. Maybe the historians have all missed it.
Yeah, but
maybe nobody has found the extermination camps that your friend told you about that were built in 1935.
Tommy dear, can I say something? My son used to collect very old history books. And from one history book to another history book, I mean, this is going back to the turn of the century, history has been changed in the books. Very, very slightly, but history has changed accordingly.
Okay, let's pause there for a second. Then your argument is that for what... Well, no, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Assuming that you believe that
yeah.
the evidence of extermination camps in Germany in 1935 or 6, or even before then...
Yeah.
And you're saying that was one of the reasons why we went... I presume that was one of the reasons why Britain declared war on Germany in 1939. No, it wasn't.
No.
No.
I don't believe it was.
Nevertheless, that evidence has been ignored in the history books? Why would that be?
I don't say ignored. I would say brushed over.
Why would that be?
I don't know. Even my son, he saw the Pink Triangle. Was it the Pink Triangle on television last week? About homosexuals being rounded up in the 40s. He didn't know about it. Although I try to tell him these things. I mean, I was told these things from my father. I was born during the war. Can I also say one thing? I have never, since, this unfortunate things happened in the Balkans, heard so much hate coming over the television, and the radio, so much intolerance. If people found themselves in the position that these poor people have, they wouldn't be so ready to say send them back to their own country. People don't want to run just for economic reasons. I think that's the last.
Well, I can understand a lot of British people failing to understand the difficulties which refugees face.
Thank goodness we haven't been in that situation.
Well, we haven't been successfully invaded. We haven't had a military dictatorship. Right. Let's not argue about the 18 years up to 1997. No. But we haven't had a military dictatorship, and we haven't had a revolution. We haven't had a bloody revolution. You see, the French know what it feels like. Most of the countries of Europe, most of the countries across the world know what it feels like.
No, that's right.
And I taught it at school, if indeed their parents don't remember it. But this is probably one of the few countries that has never, in living memory and beyond, way, way beyond, ever been dominated by an unfriendly power.
No.
Either from within or without.
That's quite right. I think the nearest we've ever got, unfortunately, according what side you're on, was Mrs. Thatcher.
So what we need to bring us into line with the rest of the world, so that we don't have this standout section of the population who simply can't get their heads around what it's like to be somebody else.
No, they can't.
Is to be invaded?
Well, they can't.
Or to have a military coup?
Yeah, I mean, you hear these terrible stories about Asians, perhaps, or Africans that have been frozen on planes. People don't get on planes just to come over here for economic reasons. They don't
No, you're absolutely
their
right.
families for thousands.
These are people who are terrified of what might happen to them. That's why you cling onto the undercarriage of a
That's
plane
right.
that's taking off from an airport. It's not
Right,
because you've heard that the milk of land of milk and honey is to be had by clinging to the undercarriage of that plane. You're absolutely right. You make a very evocative point.
Thank you.
In the end.
Thank you.
Thank you. 20 to 10.
Tommy Boyd at breakfast. LBC 11:52 a.m. Call 0171 412 1152.
John is our next caller in Hornsey. John,
Yeah, good morning, Tom.
what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, Tom, my dad, right, he's 93 years old, right, and we can't get him a wheelchair, right? Now, I've been waiting 7 months now for a wheelchair for him, right, to get him to and fro from the hospital, because obviously he's 93 years old, and it's very difficult. Now, when I went to the wheelchair centre complaining about it, I was told off the record, the reason why we can't get things now is because all the cutbacks, because most of the money is being spent on refugees, Tom, and I was told that, mate, and I'm still waiting for a wheelchair for my dad. And like I say, he served in the war, and I think it's disgraceful the way the English people are being treated. I actually think, and I mean this, mate, that there's more racism directed against English people than the actual foreigners. Hello?
By whom?
Well, by
you know, there's an awful lot of English people that other English people choose carefully to dislike because they feel they merit it. That's not racism.
Yeah, but you've got the
and you'd have to work out how it's racist for an English person to be racist towards another English person. How would that work?
Well, to be honest with you, I've come across a lot of English people that don't even like their own people.
Yes, this is in fact what we're talking about here. And so how does this work?
Well, I don't know, but it don't seem to have this...
Let's work it out, shall we? Let's have a go at it, shall we? Might it be because some English people recognise that perhaps the majority of English people are in fact objectionable?
Well, that may be the case, Tom, but let's be fair about it.
Is there anything in that argument?
Well, let's put this argument to you, Tom. If the English have been so bad as a nation and horrible and nasty to everyone else, then why is it most people, if they had the choice, they would come and live in England? Because they know deep down the majority of the English people are good people and very, very tolerant, Tom. There's nowhere on this earth you would get away with what people get away with here.
Get away with fleeing
and cheating, and not all of them are genuine, Tom.
Right. So let's be clear about this then, because I have to help you with your argument a little bit, if you don't mind me saying so.
No, fine.
The English people have a proud and genuine and accurate compassion and sense of care, which is renowned the world around, and you yourself are proud of that.
Absolutely.
However, you feel that the line has to be drawn somewhere.
Exactly, Tom.
And you feel that we have, in fact, overstepped that mark and need to draw back.
Well, yeah, because...
I see.
Yes, Tom, because the word asylum, mate, I mean, it's losing its credibility.
What does it mean anyway in this context? You most usually hear about it when it's referred to somewhere like Bedlam.
Well...
It's a curious thing, isn't it? It's one of those words which has two entirely different meanings.
Yeah, I mean, the word asylum is there, political asylum, it's there for genuine people, not people who are out to make a fast buck. And I'd like to tell you another story, Tom. 2 years ago, me and my wife and 2 kids were placed in a homeless bed and breakfast unit by Camden Council, and I was living in a place with these refugees, and the stories they used to tell me, and I used to hear them in the kitchen because I used to go and make my breakfast in the morning, and they used to laugh and joke and poke fun at the English because we're stupid. You know, I mean, they go out working and they claim benefits
And a lot of them are not persecuted. I used to hear them tell, I'd like to bring all these do-gooders to the hotel where I was living.
What?
And if you was to hear them, Tom, I'm not just... some of these people were so dishonest, Tom.
No, I haven't met many foreigners. It would be a refreshing experience for me to top up on what it's like to find oneself in contact with foreign-speaking people.
Well, no,
but I will get round to it one day. I want to ask you this. You yourself have experience of being a social refugee, don't you?
Yeah.
And you effectively sought asylum within the country of your birth.
Well, I didn't sought asylum anywhere, mate.
Well, you did. You sought...
At the end of the day...
Yeah, no, if I may clarify my point. You as a social refugee, you fled from the teeth of the great outdoors, absolute poverty and starvation, and sought asylum within the sanctuary of what the state had to offer, which was accommodation and sustenance.
Exactly. Yes, but when I was in that accommodation...
How did that feel to be offered that sanctuary by the state, your own state, by the state?
It felt beautiful, Tom,
Beautiful.
But could I just say this? I wouldn't mind people having these. I don't begrudge anyone, but what I do begrudge is people cheating.
Do you know that an awful lot of people will have suspected, listening to your story at its bare face, that you probably were sponging?
Well, I don't think so, Tom, because...
No. Which bit don't you think? Because I can tell you for absolute certain, I will stand here and on my life, I can be absolutely certain that something like 50% of people who would hear your story would assume that you were a sponger. Now, I know you're not, but how do you feel about those people who would think that you were?
Well, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't like that if I was a genuine person.
How would you show that you were a genuine person?
But this is the point I'm making, Tom. A lot of these people, if they are genuine, mate, I don't have no quarrels with that.
But how do you show that one? How does one show that one is genuine?
Well, let's put it this way, mate. I mean, a lot of these people, at the end of the day...
The truth is you can't, can you?
Yes, you can, Tom, because, immigration here, they don't even look really deeply into people.
Any human story, you see, what interests me is this, John. Your story, like every single person's story, is complex. All of us have so many different facets. None of us, when we look at our own lives, it's clear to see none of us are black and white. We're all very complex. However, the further we get from people, when we judge them, we like to think that they fall comfortably into one of two camps, the yes or the no's, the blacks, the whites, the genuine cases, and the spongers. I would have thought that the wise view is to recognise that almost everybody exists somewhere in between the two, largely.
I'd agree with that.
And making a final decision about who deserves and who doesn't deserve is one of those ones that would test Solomon, isn't it? And thank goodness you and I don't have to make that decision, but somebody does.
Yeah, but the thing is, Tom...
And if I can finish...
Certainly.
They make mistakes, those who make those decisions. Now, this is a country with a proud history of caring, and we can take great pride in that. Besides winning world wars and one World Cup, we can take pride in the fact that we do care, and we have done what seems to us to be our best, and sometimes more than that, worldwide.
Got you.
If we're going to make that claim continuously, then if we make mistakes, and this is the point, and I hope you agree, if we're going to make those mistakes, we need to err on the side of compassion. So we will get it wrong sometimes, and some people who have heard that this is the land of milk and honey, a strange phrase. I wish it was. Where is that milk and honey? I've lived here for 40 years. I haven't seen much.
That is a lovely word, compassion, Tom, and I do have a lot of that, believe it or not. But at the end of the day, what I dislike is like all these people what do down the English people. There's a lot of people out there what keep knocking the English people.
Well,
now, I'm not just saying this, Tom. If you look at some of the old films on the TV where you see them little kids in the slums of East London, the slums of Glasgow, it breaks my heart because English people have suffered as well.
True.
And I'm fed up with people having a go at my people.
Yes.
And I'll tell you this, Tom, I love the English people.
You do.
And I love my people so much.
You do.
And I'm not prepared to let anybody And I mean it, Tom. I'm prepared to give my life for my people.
I'll see you on the ramparts, John.
Oh, you may do, Tom, but at the end of the day, I think it's wrong because people should talk up, shouldn't do down the English people.
No.
They're good
Right.
people.
Fantastic people. John in Hornsey, 0171 412 1152. It's nearly 5 to 10.
LBC 1152 AM.
Can we welcome Steve Allen into the LBC Breakfast Studio? He's got a busy show lined up. If his fan is anything to go by.
My fan.
You're always so keen to make sure that the temperature's right for you when you're broadcasting.
Yeah,
It's
I
very
don't like it
professional.
too hot.
Yes, but it's a well-known fact that you bring your own portable
I do.
fan.
I bring
in.
two.
Two portable fans?
Two, but I can't have them on when I'm broadcasting.
No.
Because otherwise you get this sort of... You hear that?
Oh, yes.
And this one's even worse.
That is, isn't it? So you switch on your fans.
God knows what some people could be thinking I'm doing, but anyway.
Yes.
Hello, V-Reggers everywhere.
You switch on your fans then during breaks in the show?
I do. Just keep it cool. I want one of those ceiling fans, you know, those ones that go round.
They're very Casablanca, aren't they?
They are.
Fantastic.
Very big. Although the trouble is, it's just recirculating the same. One of these vents in the studio is supposed to suck and one is supposed to blow, but frankly, we've had a debate on it and nobody's worked out what does what. Or which does what.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what we found ourselves thinking. There's an earthquake in Wales.
Was there?
This morning.
Good Lord.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
And what with that and the terrible events in Turkey, you find yourself wondering what would happen if... And we'd be stuck.
If what?
You see...
We do have minor tremors.
Working way below ground, as we do at LBC, if there were an earthquake struck central London now, you see, we'd be buried, but we'd survive. But nobody would ever find us, unless, of course, we were able to carry on broadcasting.
Oh, we would.
Would you do your show?
Absolutely. Too right. What else could you do?
Well,
you couldn't go anywhere, could you?
Well, rather like Lord of the Flies, we'd have to form our own community.
Lord.
And there'd have to be leaders and hunters and gatherers.
No, I'll just do a program.
Procreators. And
no.
Broadcasters.
None of that messy stuff.
You'd carry on with the show, would you?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. Why would you be one of the leaders saying you're not doing a show?
I'd be a rebel, I think. I'd sit at the back and take the mickey out.
There wouldn't be a back, would there? It would have gone.
Well, if there was a back, we wouldn't have to hang around here.
Absolutely, it'd be nice.
Stagger out into the sunshine. Sorry, you were telling us about V-registration cars.
No, I was just going to say is that all these people driving around in V-regs, I was just wishing them a very happy, cheery good morning, knowing that had you bought your car on the continent, you could have saved thousands, because there would be people driving identical cars to yours, but they've paid up to £3,000 or £4,000 cheaper than you have. So that's good news. And of course, the only thing new about your car is the number plate. The rest of it, of course, could have been built any time over the last couple of years. Why are women still fighting to wear trousers? I want to hear from you if you were an evacuee. Do you have mixed memories? A lot of the evacuees did. I know that we've spoken to land girls before, and they didn't have such a good time as people think they did. How influenced by adverts are you? Hopefully the MPs between 11 and 12 today will be very influenced. That's Paul Burstow, Geraint Davis and John Redwood who'll be joining us. And then at 12 o'clock, it's the consumer queen, Jackie King. And as always, get in nice and early, just after the news at 12 o'clock, and you can be first on the line to her. So that's what I thought we'd talk about today.
Fantastic, Steve. Look forward to listening to it in my
car.
H-Reg.
Is it?
Renault 5, yeah. I've got to miss this car today.
Oh, embarrassing.
The beast is being
Are you a two-car family?
Yes.
There's posh.
Yes. Well, at least we're a family.
What? Yes.
Start anything with me.
No.
Honestly.
No, I'm in for a quiet life, mate.
Look forward to talking with you from 6 on the breakfast show tomorrow. Douglas Cameron has the 10 o'clock, and then it's Steve Allen.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.